Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Josh Roberts from Very Special Games. His two-person creative studio with Evan has recently launched Sky Scratchers, a sneakily strategic game of escaped cats, which is now on Kickstarter. Josh, welcome to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me back. It's good to see you again.
Oh, it is amazing having you back. We were just talking before we went on air, and I have to go back and look up which episode it was. I know it was probably in the single hundreds last time we had you on. Is
I
in
think
around
so.
abduction, I think, around that area.
I think
And
so. Yeah,
man, you guys have done a lot of stuff since. For those who
we're
don't
trying.
know you guys, maybe we could start off and get you just to kind of give me a quick introduction on Very Special Games, like how it's kind of structured with you and Evan and kind of what your company is about.
Yeah, sure. So Very Special Games, we've been in business for about 6 years. It's Evan and I are the creators, designers, publishers, kind of the whole thing. We did get into this business kind of on accident. He and I met at a consulting firm we were both working at. And one day at work came up with the idea for our first game, Charty Party, which is essentially a Cards Against Humanity knockoff clone, however you want to state that, um, based on charts and graphs. One thing led to another. We figured out how to work Kickstarter, made a few more games. And at this point, if you've heard of anything we've made, it's going to either be Ransom Notes, which you can find in Target, Walmart, kind of all the usual suspects, Barnes and Noble, or Abduction. So yeah, we've been doing it for 6 years. Our team's grown to six people. So it's not just me and Evan anymore, luckily, but it's going well and it's a lot of fun.
And is now, have you guys, is this full time now? Like, so you guys have kind of put the prior careers aside, and this is now the engine moving forward.
That, that is correct. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. And then when you guys were working in the like, were you guys like buddies at work, or were you just two colleagues that just kind of started talking about games?
Yeah, I mean, friendly.
Mm,
Evan's 15 or 16 years younger than me, so like
yeah.
we're not exactly peers. He's single in Atlanta, married with two kids in Memphis. So like, yeah, we're friends. But he's got his friend group, I've got mine. But yeah, we were always friendly at work.
And you're still able to navigate this virtually, so there's no office. Like everything is done virtually as a company.
Yeah, that's right. And we've got team members in Chicago, Indianapolis, Long Island, New York, Prattville, Alabama. So we're kind of all over the place.
It's funny when you hear people say like, "Hey, how you doing?" and someone says, "Oh, living the dream." You're living the dream, like you literally are. And I always laugh when people say "living the dream" because for most part, if you can make a living doing something like this, you actually are living the dream, aren't you?
Yeah, no, we're very lucky, and that's not lost on us.
And when did you guys decide to do? So you had your own. You started the company with your own design, but now you work with other people's designs and so forth. What was that transition? Was that just based out of just management of projects, or like what was the decision to kind of go along that path?
Yeah, so just to clarify, Evan and I are still very heavily involved in all our design. And I think
Mm,
we still put our stuff first. But and you probably know this, but once you've been in the business enough and once your products get enough visibility, people reach out to you all the time for
yeah.
advice. I've got this game idea. What do you think? And sometimes one thing leads to another, and you get a concept that's so good that you want to work with the person on developing it and getting it published. So we've found a couple of those over the years. Um, we've had one, our game Bloom Chasers, kind of sat on the back burner. Evan and I were always kind of high on the idea, but it never rose to the top of being our highest priority.
Mm.
And we met this dude named Tavy, who had a Kickstarter campaign going on, and we were like, "Hey, man, you would be a great lead designer on this game, Bloom Chasers, that we have." So like he led the design on our idea, and we kind of pitched in on getting it to the finish line. So we've kind of done this in every possible formulation, and they've all been fun.
And how do you find these different designers? Is it literally them reaching out to you? Do you go to like prototyping nights? Like what's the process for you, or is it literally everywhere?
Yeah, no, I know there are companies bigger than us that proactively search for other people's stuff to publish.
Yeah.
But ours is really like I'll basically take a meeting with anybody. We when Evan and I got started, we reached out to a bunch of people at companies larger than us who were very generous with their time, and gave us great advice on helping us get up and running. And I try to do that as much as I can as well. Um, we get a lot of inbound email about how do I get my game on Kickstarter? How do I do this thing? And I'll talk to anybody about that for half an hour. So our recruiting of other product is exclusively that.
Mm.
We don't proactively search for anybody else's stuff today. I don't know that that's going to be true forever. But at least today we're not doing a lot of outbound looking.
Is there like a button on your website where you say, "Hey, submissions here" at all, or is it literally just your emails?
It's literally just through email. So there's like a kind of catch-all customer service email that people use, but my email's not hard to find either.
Yeah.
If you want to look around.
And how do you handle like, because I run into this often where I'll have someone like reach out through my website and say, "Hey, I've got a game idea I'd like to pitch to you," or here's kind of a concept we have. I've kind of created like a standard line where I say, "Hey, you're more than welcome to submit your pitch. You know, we sometimes work with other people's games, but before you pitch it, please note that this industry has only so many mechanisms and ideas in terms of thematic ideas. There's a lot of parallel thinking going on in the industry, and I mean, we could very well be working on some similar concepts already. So." Please keep that in mind before you submit anything. Do you have any kind of disclaimer like that you do with people that are?
No, I think if somebody sends us something that uh, looks like an idea we have, we'll tell them that up front.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, we probably can't give you good advice on this because we're thinking about something like this already. Um, but yeah, and we've had we've had people make knockoffs of our stuff, and it doesn't feel great. And
No.
our word is worth whatever it's worth, depending on the audience. But like Evan and I just aren't built that way, where we're gonna steal people's stuff.
I guess that's a challenge too, right? Is like, when is it a knockoff versus parallel thinking?
Yeah,
I've
right.
literally had this happen to me twice. I had one on a card game I had with cards, and I had literally someone had made a comment on. It was during COVID, and we had made it literally for my dad. He was in the hospital at the time, so we were trying to come up. My brother and I were coming up with a game to do something simple that he could play, but we could kind of play for him, right?
Yeah,
And so I posted pictures online, and someone actually commented, said, "Hey, this looks very familiar." Kind of thinky face, almost implying I had stole their idea, right? And I looked at their game, I
yeah,
saw, well, there's some similarities there, but it literally was a different game. But that's tough. I have another one I'm working on right now. And a colleague, we've been playtesting this now for probably 9 months. And a colleague sent me a thing and said, "Hey, somebody just launched this game." He goes, "And it looks almost identical to what you've been working on." So you're like, "Geez, what do you do?" Right? Like, do you now be
yeah.
the guy that's accused of copying someone else's idea? Do you just jettison something you've been working
You
on for a couple
junk
of
it.
years? Right? That's a
Yeah,
tough call. I don't know. I haven't figured out exactly how to handle that yet.
it is a tough call. I've kind of got two thoughts on this. So, are you familiar with Deep Sea Adventure by Oink Games?
Yes,
I love Deep Sea Adventure.
love it.
I think there are some flaws with Deep Sea Adventure that my best friend who's not a game designer, we've played a lot of Deep Sea Adventure, and we're like, let's make a something, inspired by Deep Sea Adventure
Yeah.
and fix the problems, right?
Yep.
And we're all excited about doing this. I go to Gen Con, and I don't remember exactly what they call in the Oink Games booth. There's something called Space Explorer, Space Adventure, something like that. And I look at the back of the box. I bought it, and I have it now. And I'm like, oh, well, they've already solved all the problems, so now we don't need to. Great. So that happens sometimes. But I think that and the other stuff that happens. So when Ransom Notes was on Kickstarter, Ransom Notes are our most popular game.
Yeah.
Um, about the same time, this thing on Jackbox came out called Job Job,
Yep.
and we get compared to Job Job a lot. But like Ransom Notes was on Kickstarter at the same time Job Job launched, so
Yep.
it's like who's the chicken, who's the egg there, and they're pretty different concepts.
Yeah.
Multiplied by word games are as old as language,
Yeah.
right? Um, but the ones that bother me, so like there's three ransom notes knockoffs that really irk me. One of them, borrowed heavily from our prompts and changed a few words here and there.
Mm,
Um, one of them, half of the prompts in their box are exact copies of ours. Like that's a
yeah.
different deal. I think there's a version of taking somebody else's creative work and trying to elevate it or change it or shape it that's
Yeah.
like flattering and additive to the industry, and there's another version of it where I'm trying to make a quick buck off somebody else's work. And I
Kelp
think,
is a good example of that.
oh my God, what a nightmare. What a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I think if you do your best to stay on the right side of that line, and you
Yeah.
have, you know, good intentions around it, I think you can stay clean on that.
Something you said there, I think, is very interesting, which is good advice, I think, for budding game designers or people looking to start game
Hmm.
design, is this concept of taking something that you view as broken and try to fix it, right?
Yeah.
As a way to, and that's literally how I started. I think it was, gosh, 35 years ago. One of the first games I made is I took everything I hated about Monopoly. This is when I was like 16,
It's a
and
lot to hate about
yeah,
Monopoly.
and said, I'm gonna fix everything I hate about Monopoly and make my own game.
Yeah.
So anybody looking at the game would be like, oh, well, you're going around a board in a circular. That's kind of Monopoly-esque, and yes, there's money and things involved. So never launched it. It's something we played as a family when I was younger, but it got me started, right? And it got the creative
Yeah.
juices going. Then from there, then I started creating other games that which were different and were unique, creations and so forth. And I've launched some of those. But it's a great way to start. And I think that, sometimes I ran into somebody in a parking lot the other day, and I got a like board game binge sticker on the back of my window. And the guy goes, "Can I ask you a question?" He goes, "You got a podcast?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "My kid's trying to get into podcasting. Do you have any advice?" I'm like, "Here, send me an email. Yeah, I'll give you some tips on how you can get started."
Cool.
Often, game design, same thing, right? You have people say, "Hey, like I always thought about designing a game. Like how do I get started?" This is a way to get started. Take
For
a
sure.
game that you play all the time. There's gonna be things about that game that just you don't like, and figure out how would you fix those, and that's gonna start unlocking ideas on how you can then start down this path for game design, I think.
Yeah, I think that's all very smart. And said another way, Evan and I are firmly committed to making games that we want to play.
Yeah,
And sometimes that means you're thinking about a game you already have played or already like to play, but like you're reimagining
yeah,
how that might work and how it might present on the table.
yeah. Often you can play a game and you can say, what does this remind me of? Like I've got several. I can say, here's the four games that I've basically munched together to create this game. And
Yeah, right,
then slap this
right.
theme on, right? Like that's what it is. It's iterative, right? This entire industry, every layer, every generation that comes is built on the generation before, and you start seeing some cool kind of iterations and permutations from that, right?
For sure. Yeah, like Wingspan is not the first engine builder,
No.
right, by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the most accessible. And it took a theme that, is pretty unique for the industry. There's not a lot of games out there about birds. There's a few, but not a ton.
Yep.
And I think, one of the things that I deeply appreciate about Wingspan is the through line of the theme is so strong
Yeah.
from, point A to point B. And like they didn't do anything to reinvent the wheel with game mechanics necessarily, but the way they organized it and put it under a theme, and stayed true to what she was trying to do with that game design, um, it adds to the art of board game development in ways that other engine builders don't, even if the core mechanic isn't, and none of the core mechanics are new, right? There's only like seven of them.
Yeah.
So we're all doing a riff on the same
Oh yeah.
or eight different things, right?
It's when you combine them, right? Like take deck building, right? And
Right.
the initial deck builders, and then see how deck building is built into games now, and in the different kind of combinations. I think that's where kind of the magic is, and what makes it kind of cool, right?
Yeah, agreed.
In terms of cat scratchers, how did this come across your table? So the designer of this one, did I read is was this by email, or
Yeah,
how'd you connect with this guy?
yeah. So this dude named Dario,
Yeah,
he lives down in Colombia. Super nice guy. I can't believe he still talks to me. He emailed me once and was like, "Hey, I'm trying to make games. I make them by hand in my village in Colombia. We have a ton of fun playing them. Can you give me some advice on how to maybe make this a business in the United States? Like, absolutely, man. Let's get on a call.
That's cool.
And he had this idea for a game called The Top, which I thought was super cool. Um, and it was basically a urban climbing game. So like the humans climbing a building. Um, and there were a couple of the mechanics that were a little bit, you needed some polish. And when we started talking about theming the game, it was like, well, if you do urban climbing with humans, you're going to niche yourself down
Yeah.
to, like, even if the game is exactly the same, that's going to eliminate part of your target audience.
Hmm.
So we started thinking about, well, what else could climb there? We thought about mountain goats and mountain lions and monkeys and kind of the whole thing. But we stayed in love with the idea of the urban environment, right? And I really love the art style we landed on for Sky Scratchers. Um, One of the things on our mood board was Roku City, and it probably shows when you look at it, right? But anyway, so it was like, well, every big city has like these super savvy cats that are just kind of always on fire escapes and climbing up and down rain gutters and whatever else. So it sort of became clear that if we were going to stick to the urban theme, but we wanted to get away from people, that cats was the answer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think I was just saying before going on air, I think this is like the fourth cat game in the past 6 weeks that we've actually profiled on. I mean, it's a theme that's so ubiquitous, right? Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of cat lovers out there, and certainly of those that love cats, they'll attract anything that's cat themed. I do want to kind of acknowledge up front just how well this is funded. You still got 3 days to go, but I'm gonna put it in
yeah,
Canadian dollars. It's the only way I can see it. $277,000 on a $13,800 goal. 3,092 backers. That is an astronomical number of backers, especially in this environment right now, which is a deflated environment. So congratulations first on that to you and your
thank
team.
you,
That is phenomenal. Um,
thank you.
the other thing I want to point out is right at the very top, there's a video, and I'm going to encourage everybody listening to this podcast, especially if you are looking at doing a Kickstarter campaign yourself at some point in the future, check out this page and check out this video. Um, we've talked about this on the podcast in the past, but my belief is you don't have to have a big fancy animated video for a campaign, right? And I think Tanner Yarrow from Yarrow Studios has proven this, where he's done multi-million-dollar campaigns where it's just him and his buddies doing a little skit. Here's another example where you literally have table shots, probably with an iPhone, quite frankly. Somebody doing an audio, might have been you doing the audio.
It was Evan.
Evan going through your script, explain the game in a clear and concise way, and then bang, get the people off and get them onto the page. And here we are, over $250,000 funded, right? So that proves, I think, that hypothesis that you don't necessarily need to dump a bunch of money into a fancy video. If you want to do that, that's great. If you got money to spend on fancy videos, go ahead. I like to take that money and put it into ads, right? Because that's the kind of thing that
Yeah.
converts into more pledges. So I want to encourage people to check out this page specifically for this video. Watch this video because I think it'll help people understand. Here's a way to do it very clean and concise, but do it literally on the cheap. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things to emphasize there. So it's kind of the idea there's a time and place for everything, right? So one of my
Sure.
favorite games of all time is called My Father's Work. They did something over $1 million on Kickstarter. The box weighs 500 pounds. Um, but it's great and it's awesome. But a game like that really only has life on Kickstarter. Maybe if they have it's too expensive, it's too big, it's too
Yeah.
heavy, it's all the things, right? But it's a beautiful work of art of the game. And like if if Kickstarter is going to be the whole life of your game, you might want to think about, well, this is the one shot I got.
Yep.
Let me take this as far as I can. Evan and I think about, like, Kickstarter is the beginning of the product's life cycle for us. And we are trying to give our games a long life on Amazon, on our Shopify store, in retail. And if that's true, we don't want to muck up what we can learn on Kickstarter about what the market size and the demand and the feedback is for this game by putting bells and whistles on the campaign that are not repeatable in the future, right?
Hmm.
So when Sky Scratchers becomes available Most people are going to walk by a game shelf and see the box on the store or at the store, right? And they're not going to see a fancy video. So let's emphasize the box and the components and
Mm,
the things that people are going to see over and over again in ads, in store, in that sort of deal. But yeah, I mean, you can put five figures, thousands of dollars into making a video, and then your campaign fails, and
yeah.
that's the flip side of that coin.
I look at it from the perspective of your marketing budget is a finite bucket, right? You only have so much money
Yeah,
to spend, especially if you're putting your own money in. And so, say you have, because like an animated video, you're looking at minimum 1,500 US, but it could go up as high as say 5,000. If you have like 2 grand to put into a video, I would much prefer either A, put that into a short run of production, so like 100 copies. Your manufacturer, if you get this part of negotiation with the manufacturer, you can get them to agree to this. I do this all the time, where I say, hey,
sure.
we're going to choose you. Well, you have to agree as part of this deal that you're going to produce 100 copies. I understand I'm going to pay more per copy, but I need 100, for lack of a better word, prototypes, or like as a short run, basically a short run in the factory. You're going to do a lot of it by hand, but you're gonna do that as part of this deal. You can get 100 copies for 2 grand, and
Yep.
then give those 100 copies to literally any reviewer that wants to look at the game without paying them. So anybody who wants a review for free, you're gonna get way more content and way more exposure doing that than dumping that money into a video.
Yeah.
Meta ads, meta still reigns king for driving
Yep.
traffic to a Kickstarter page through lead gen, right? If you're looking at $4 a lead, you got 2 grand, you pump it into doing lead gen, you're gonna get a lot of leads to add to your email list, which is gonna carry forward and can be used repetitively on subsequent campaigns and things like that. So I often look at it as a finite bucket of cash, and it's like, okay, where can I spend this cash best?
Yeah. I think that's very wise advice, and I would just emphasize the point, especially if it's your first campaign. Your budget is not unlimited,
Yeah,
and there are going to be plenty of opportunities, videos among them, to spend a lot of money on something that's not going to move the needle on your campaign success in near the way promotion on Meta or things like that will.
yeah. Yeah, someone once told me that your email list really reigns king. That's the one thing out of all that you have ownership of and control of, right? So if
Yeah,
you're doing, if people are clicking the notify me button on Kickstarter, that's great, because Kickstarter will inform those people when you go live, and it'll inform them when there's 48 hours left. But then that lead is gone unless they pledge, right? Whereas your email list goes on in perpetuity. People will unsubscribe, obviously, as you keep going, but that goes in perpetuity. You can keep building that, right? And that is going to be the type of thing that brings in your audience base that's been kind of on this journey with you, right? And I think a lot of people kind of fall short on that, and literally kick off their first campaign with like 100 emails, and
yeah.
you can be in for a lot of hurt if you haven't built up that audience ahead of time. On Sky Scratchers, I want to highlight this. Maybe I'll get you to explain how to play the game first, and then I got some questions I want to ask you about this box. First of all, it looks super cool, but I'll hand
Yeah,
the reins
thank you.
over to you.
Yeah, sure. So Sky Scratchers, the players play as butlers for this wealthy family that lives in a penthouse in some nondescript big city. And while the family's on vacation, the cats have escaped out into the city. And the players are using their small hand of cat toy action cards to help lure their three cats back to the top of the building. And you win by being the first player to get all three of your cats back into the penthouse. Uh, really simple, really fun. There's a nice mix, I think, of kind of nuts and bolts action cards that create movement. And then there's some kind of chaos cards that, there's one in particular that you can, if it lines up the right way, you could start a cat at the very bottom and get him into the penthouse with one card. It rarely lines up that way, and it's really hard to see when it does, but it's super fun when it happens. um, and it's there's a thin layer of strategy where if you land on the windows of your color all the way up, your cat's going to be safe if an opponent lands on you.
Mm,
But if you're on somebody else's color and an opponent lands on you, your cat's going to drop down the building until they get to their next color window. So there's some strategic thinking. Do I want to just blast up the building as fast as I can, or do I want to carve a line? made out of my color windows. So really easy to teach. We took it to Gen Con, and Evan and I met a couple people at a deli. We were having lunch and pulled it out and we were playing. Um, and the table presence is such, obviously
Oh
they're
yeah.
like, hey, can we play? And we taught them how to play in 10 seconds, and the four of us are off to the races. And the dude playing with us did play that card and did get his cat to the top of the building in one shot on his first play. So that's the thing I love is players who like to take the time to be thoughtful about how they use all of their resources. Like there's something in it for them in Sky Scratchers, but
Yeah.
there's also a very low bar for the teach, and you can get to the table and be playing competently really quickly.
It looks awesome. And it's modular, right? So you can mix and match how those windows get originally set up on the skyscraper, right? So it's always different every time you play.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things I like to play blue. Every game I play blue. And it occurred to us if that board was the same every time, your path is going to be the same every time,
Yeah.
right? So the magnets or I'm sorry, the windows are in rows on magnetic strips that you move around
Like
however you
refrigerator
want.
magnets almost, right?
Yeah, well, I mean they're the ransom notes magnets just on a bigger
Mm.
scale. Um, but yeah, you set up the board differently every time, so it changes the your strategic thinking around how you take your path up your color every time you play.
And the box is so is the whole box made of that magnetic material? Is it just
So
the cover? Or like how did you guys build this? Is
the front of the box, um, underneath a thin layer of cardboard and underneath the glossy wrap of the cover, there's a metal mesh.
mm,
And the reason that that's not a magnet is because the magnet strips are strong enough to get there. But if they were both magnets, it would do that weird polarity thing
lapel
where
thing, yeah.
sometimes it slips.
Yep.
And we wanted the magnets to be consistent and, straight lines and all that good stuff. So we went with a metal mesh inside the box and magnets for the rows of windows.
Now, I just try and get again because I've done a lot of manufacturing, right? Like I've done
Yeah.
a number of games myself, and like, was this like a new innovation? Like to get the mesh in the box, was that something that existed already? Is this something you had to kind of like work with the manufacturer on, or how did you?
Yeah, it depends on how you define invention. So all of the individual pieces already existed,
Sure.
but I think this is the first time it's ever been put together in this sort of way. And I think one of the pieces of advice I give to new game designers all the time is if you have a big idea, don't tell yourself you can't do that. Talk to a competent manufacturer and tell them your big idea, and I bet they're going to be able to figure out how to make it work at a cost that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And we've run into that a handful of times where we're like, well, we would love to do it this way, but there's no way they can make that. And we go down this path and we try other materials that aren't fun and are cumbersome and whatever else. And then we finally call the manufacturer and we're like, hey, we're trying to do this. What do you suggest? And they're like, do it this way. It'll be perfect. And it always is. So, I think just trust your manufacturing partner to be able to help you get your big ideas to the finish line.
Who's the manufacturer using on this one?
Long pack.
Yeah,
We
they're
have
great.
we have three manufacturing partners that we use on a fairly regular basis. But one of the things I love about Long Pack is we send them crazy ideas all the time and they don't blink. Like
Yeah.
they kind of sink their teeth into, okay, how is the engineering team going to solve this? And Sky Scratchers, frankly, created a lot of problems for the engineering team, but they solved them all with enthusiasm.
They're fantastic. I have them on so the Cities of Venus Survivors, and it was the same thing. I was in a conversation with them, and we're talking about like making the tray lid also act as an organizer to like in the box to make things kind of fit while it ships. And I just threw the idea. I said, "What if we made the lid like sink down, and we had like compartments in the actual lid to hold some of these things?" And my rep on that side's like, "That's a very good idea. Let me talk to the engineers."
Yeah,
Literally the next day I had a rendering. I'm like, holy
yeah,
smokes.
yeah.
Like the next day a rendering of, they're like, do you mean like this? I was like,
Yeah,
holy crap! Like, wow, what a great
yeah.
manufacturer. I love them. Yeah,
Well, and that experience is not unique to you
yeah, I know.
with Long Pack. Like they that's just how they operate, and
Yeah.
they're a great partner. I know there's other great manufacturing partners out there for board games, but if you're looking for an endorsement from me, it's going to be Long Pack.
Any issues with shipping at all? Like, I know when I've shipped things that have magnets in it, you have to do certain declarations and so forth going across borders and things like this.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, so our team has grown, and one of the people on our team is a woman named Blake,
Hmm.
and Blake handles all of our logistics and operations and is incredibly meticulous and tedious about these things and knows how to get stuff labeled and file declarations and do all that stuff. So that's not something I have to worry about. But yeah, I mean, the worst thing you can try to ship is batteries,
Oh yeah.
and magnets is in the bucket of whatever's after batteries.
Yeah, if you can go without, like, we have a project working on that has potentially illuminated LEDs
Oh yeah,
in it,
have fun.
and yeah, and so I've been talking to my colleague about this, and we're like, you know what, we're going to design a way that those LEDs can be added by the backer, and we're just going to
Mhm.
say, here's your Amazon link where you can get these really cheap and add them yourself.
Yeah,
Here's what it looks like, but trying to get into the LED battery game is just you're just asking for a lot of hurt.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Where do you guys go from here? What's next for your company? Do you have another game on the horizon you can talk about, or what's the plan?
I don't know how much I can talk about specific game stuff, but yeah, I think we've got 4 or 5 things that we're pretty excited about that we're working on right now. The one that is very near and dear to my heart. So I'm 46 now. I've got 2 kids. And a lot of my creative energy these days is going towards, and I'm sorry to get cheesy on you a little bit, but is going towards how do we create moments of joy between parents and their children?
Hmm.
And like through all of human history, games has been one of the ways to do that. Um, Part of the challenge is like if you've played Candyland as an adult, it sucks. It's not fun for the grown up. You swallow your pride and you play it with your child because you're spending quality time with them, but it's not a fun game,
Yeah.
right? It's just not. It's great for when you're 3. It's not great when you're 46. So I'm working on a project that is like it's an asymmetrical concept, where the kids are kind of doing one thing and the adults playing are doing a different thing, but we're playing the same game.
Hmm.
Um, but there's like a strategic depth and thought process that the adults are doing that the kids don't have to do, but they benefit from. And it has stakes on their end. And Part two, my 12-year-old son lives with autism,
Hmm.
super high functional. Um, but we're baking in, like emotional regulation and impulse control and some of those things. So one of the examples is there's a point in the game where it's set in space and the crew's freaking out and you've got it the child has to show the crew how they take deep breaths to calm themselves down.
No,
That's
smart.
something we're supposed to practice with our son on a regular basis. He won't do it. Like he's like, I'm not doing this with you. I'm not sitting on this couch and practicing breathing with you. In the context of the game, he does not blink an eye. When that moment comes up, he's like, here we go. This is how we calm ourselves down. Right. And so I'm trying to create a moment, and your kids don't have to be autistic for you to be dealing with impulse control and emotional regulation. Like that's something all parents deal with, right? So I'm hoping that we can bake some of that stuff in. It's not the feature of the game. The feature of the game is here's this fun activity for kids, here's this fun activity for adults. They intermingle, and now as a family, we're having a great time together at the table.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And certainly with the prevalence of autism, I mean, I've got some family members myself. Um, I think that's the bullseye for what people are probably looking for right now. So it's very, very astute and smart to think about, okay,
Yeah,
how
I
can we
hope
bake some of
so.
these things in? Oh, that's cool.
Well, and I'm having a ton of fun. Yeah, my 12-year-old's my co-designer on this one.
Oh,
So we're
nice.
having a great time putting it together. We have, it's still very early.
Yeah.
So it's not a great game yet. But we're having a lot of fun testing it and putting together the prototypes and all that.
Well, when it's ready, we'll get you back on the podcast, maybe with your son, and we can talk about it. I'd be so excited to hear it. For those who want to check
may or
out,
may not talk to you.
for the Sky Scratchers, those who want to check it out, I do encourage them to check out this page. It is only got 3 days left. There is no late pledges, is what Josh let me know. So if you're gonna check this out, you gotta check this out in the next 3 days. I will put a link in the show notes. Josh, I want to wish you all the best. You and your team on this. What a cool game concept, man. You guys knocked it out of the park with this one, and I just can't wait to see how this thing finishes off.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. We're really proud of it, and I hope when it gets to your houses that you enjoy it as much as we do. Thanks again for having me today.
All right, my friend, you take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.